Right, so I think before we do anything else, we go outside and I'll show you a few of the bits. I've got some standards that I put outside just in the last few days, really. And I have a look at the multi-stem standards that I've got at the front of the glass house. So let's have a look at those now. Right, so outside now. Firstly, we've got on the left here, that's Edward's Fin. These have just been put outside in the last sort of week or so. They quite enjoyed the warm weather. We've got Charity next, which is this one. This is a young standard. It's about, let's have a look. Right, that Charity was taken in the autumn of 2022. And it's just beginning to develop a head, so that's not too bad. That's growing up quite nicely, grown quite well. It's just flowering actually. Of course, at this time of year in sort of May, early summer, it wants to flower, so I'm just letting it go. It'll be fine. Next along is Lancastrian. I've just put this out yesterday actually, because again, running out of room in the greenhouse. Another one that went out yesterday was this one. This is the SAR. It's a gold leaf zonal. Hold of that in the autumn of 2022. So that's grown on fairly well now. Right, next along is Pink Dolly Varden, the pinky version as opposed to the redder version. You may just see I've just strapped that up because we've started to have a bit of rain now, and I do not want those stems in the head to snap back. It was a bit flopped out after a night of heavy rain, so that's something you've got to be a bit careful with, especially if you're in the UK. That's something that happens regularly. Last along there is one of my own Regals. That's an unnamed seedling actually, which I've had for several years. I've never named it. It's a purple colour, still yet to come into flower, just throwing some buds now. Interestingly, quite late that one in coming through. Right, now outside we've got these two plants. That's Rosebud Supreme and my Adenzo Tintomara. These are what you call sort of multi-stem standards really. They're just, you know, lots of stems grown through. Many of the commercial growers grow their sort of stronger growing varieties like the Pack Antic group. They tend to grow them up like this, lots and lots of stems growing up to make a really huge display. Now I had to get these outside getting on for a month ago, and then the weather turned very cold at the end last week or two of April, and it really suffered. And you can see here we've got the old reddened leaves. These were all sort of obtained during this shocking period of weather that we had at the end of April, really cold. But in the last couple of weeks, since we've got into May, all of the green now is growing through well. So I will begin the process of taking these out because they won't recover. So I will start the process of taking all of those out. I mean, there's quite a bit of green growth further down, but all these new leaves that came through in April, they've all just been totally shocked by the cold weather that we had. Interestingly, the Adenzo Tintomara never got badly affected. A bit of red on that one, but whether that is because of the zoning of the leaves in the first place anyway, it may have taken the effect off. So there we go, there's multi-stem growing standards. Right, so I've mentioned before the big problem with growing standards of Regals, say Uniques, Angels, Scentids, that sort of plant, which can be done because some of them are very fast growing, and you've seen some of my examples of the plant Phyllis in many videos. I better just slip a picture there of one of my better ones. I grew that a number of years ago. I did grow another one that I had last year, but I actually lost that over the winter. I overwatered it. It was too wet because we had a very wet autumn, brought it in quite late. It was too wet, cut it back probably just a bit too hard. Thankfully I had two cuttings that I did get off it. and these are grown on quite well. These were taken in July last year. And the problem that we get with plants on the other side, shall we say, the non-zonal type plants, are the fact that at this time of year they want to throw a flowering shoot as opposed to a main growth shoot, which is what these are. Now, with uniques and the scentids, they're a little bit more defined, but in regals at this time of year, it's almost not as quite as defined as this. This is clearly a flower stem, and so I can continue the training of this Phyllis by taking that out. It will throw this stem here, which will become the lead stem, will throw the same type of split again at the next joint. But as long as you get the joint cutting right, it will grow on fine. Because if I was to take that one out and leave that would not be able to form a growing plant. So in this case, I'm just going to nick that flower stem out. There we go. I hope you can see that. It's me being left-handed, unfortunately. Here we are. That's a flowering stem because it's got loads of bloom on it. And it's a little bit, it's not as strong, a bit lanky, unlike the main growth. I've got another one there actually. I'll let that grow because just in case you think you may get it wrong, you can let a lower stem carry on growing for a while. And that's what I tend to do. So that's just something to bear in mind. So I'm now going to just tie that in to the stake. And there we go. That is that sort of, clearly defined difference between the zonals and the the other types of plants. We say the uniques, the scentids, the regals, the angels. Right. So we've had a little look at the Phyllis just a moment ago, just to sort of where we could see that differentiation. Now in regals, it's very difficult at this time of year. So what I'm going to do, I want to try and train this. Now I've got several, this is a variety of mine called Little Coxwell. It's named after a local village. And I'm initially just going to cut off the blooms. Now I've got a number of these flowering at the moment. Now if we go down in here, we can clearly see that this is a flower stem. And I'm going to cut this out. Now just below it, there is this break here. I'm going to try and determine to see if I can find an actual growth stem. But it must be, I must say that at this time of year, it really isn't easy. So I'm going to take that, which is a clear flower stem out. So it's clearly thin. We've got, lots of thin growth growing into blooms. That's clearly a bloom stem. Now, if we sort of turn it around a little bit, we've clearly got another flower stem here. It's thinner, and so I'm just going to lock that one. Again, thin and lofty, and got bloom at the end of it. Clearly a flower stem. Turn it around a bit more. Won't hurt to break that leaf off. So down here, this again, clearly a flower stem. And this little one that's growing out the side has got a bloom at the tip of it. So that again is clearly a flower stem. So I can take that out. Complete flower stem. And this is what you get on regals at this time of year, realistically. So going down then a bit further, this one here is perhaps a little bit more debatable. because we're running to a bloom there, but we've got relatively strong side shoots, but I'm still not sure that they are not all flower stems. I'm going to take this central stem off here. That was just a remainder of that first one that we cut off. So we've gone down to this, a few stems. I think that is almost certainly a flower stem. Now what you can do, of course, which is what I'm going to probably do here with this Regal, is just take it down to a number of stems. I know that I have cut out a flower stem now, so realistically all I can sort of do is wait and see how these develop. So we'll take the remainder of this one out. That's clearly a flower stem, what's left of it. I can even see the little tip of the little bloom on there, so we don't want that one. Right, so that was a really huge flower stem. So the thing that you want to try and maybe do is consider leaving 2 or 3 stems, so you've got some options here. But I'm going to leave it. What I will do, which won't cause any problem, is just take out some of these leaves. Be a little bit careful. They usually snap back fairly easily, Regal leaves, just so that the plant has sort of got a bit of air around it and you can see how things are developing. That is clearly a flower stem, so I've just nipped that off. But yeah, I'm wanting to see if I can get a half decent standard from this. Now, if you do this when the plant is on the dry side, which it currently is, I'm going to remove some. The plant is growing very fast, so I can remove a good number of these leaves that are underneath it. And you can see the stem there. So, you know, if we have a look at that, we've got a stem grower there, which again has got bud at the end of it. And this is why it's really quite difficult at this time of year to isolate growing stems from Regals. That's why you need to get that initial growth, which I've done in this case. I mean, this is a cutting done in July last year. That's grown up quite well. It's got quite a solid stem for, well, it's only 10 months old currently. So that's about as good as I think I'm going to get on this at the moment. Now, if it turns out that this one is a good growth stem, there is going to need to be a little bit of training on that one to sort of really pull it up. So it's not ideal, but you know, there we go. That's just one of those things. So that's what it's basically looking like, looking from the top. We'll have to just clearly see how that develops now. But you can see the difficulties that you get with Regals. They are not easy to train at this time of year because all they really want to do is bloom. I'll just show you then a few examples of plants that I've got in my glass house, which there are many. Okay, so where to start? I mean, I've got this lavender sensation. That's grown up quite well. That's about 2 foot tall. I'm letting the head develop on that. I haven't decided really whether I'm going to try and take that up further or not. I really haven't got a clue. These are Gosbrook Susanna standards. These have actually been a little bit of a pain to grow, I'm going to be honest. They haven't done that well. I'm a bit disappointed with the way they're growing on. Obviously, they're growing away now, but getting them through the winter always seems to be a little bit of a pain in the neck. Got a standard here of petals. That's the, you know, the good old train variety, which I've still got down the bottom there, which is growing away. But I thought I'd grow a standard of it. That probably just needs nipping out at the top now to develop that head, which is now developing. I'm growing that out, similar to how I showed you on the big green leaf plant just earlier on. That's developing now. That's doing very well. Now this gentle Georgia here, This has got quite a good stem going on it. It's growing up. The whole thing is about 2 foot tall. Do get a bit top heavy. But again, with Regals, you can't really do anything but just let them do what they want to do. Let them flower. You could potentially dig out the growth stem, but I just do not think it's worth it at this time of year. There's just no point in doing it, really. And then talking of some slightly more mature Regal standards, I've got quite a few here. There's a Nicola Buck there. That's next to another Nicola Buck. Delhi, that always grows very well. If you want a Regal to grow as a standard, Delhi is a good one because it grows really fast. Nicola Buck is the same, which is that other one there. Now, you do get relatively straight stems, which isn't easy to achieve in Regals, but I'm never too concerned about the fact that they may not be perfect. And this is a Judith Thorpe down here. You can see the stem is relatively straight. It's not dead straight, but it's fine. That's just coming into flower. That's about 1 metre tall in total, including the head. But yeah, so, again, you just need some patience. Now we've got our younger charities. I did speak about these earlier in the season, well, a couple of months back. These are growing away well. I'm letting them flower. They're probably almost certainly going to need a pot on at some stage. Or only in, I think it's a 5-inch pot. But they need to be potted up to really grow on. But they're doing well, just like the one outside. I'm just letting the heads flow, and the growth stems within the flower heads will form the future head. Now there's a Rushmore filigree, a steep pollard plant. That's doing very well, just beginning to flower. That's the head there. It's buried behind a load of others. Got a Sammy Browham here with a dead leaf on it. But that's just beginning to flower. I love Sammy Browham. I love the spots and splashes one. There's our Frank Headley, which we stopped a moment ago. These are young Elsie Taylors. Again, they're standards. They're fairly tall, actually. That one's doing all right. Just again, though, Regals come in flower. You can't really do much with them. Now, if you want a really big brute to grow, this is Bolero. Now, I've got 2 of them. That's my giant one, which all it really seems to want to do is grow. It's just gone mad. Strangely, it's not flowering, and I don't know why, but anyway. But there's a younger version of it, which is flowering. That's in an 8-inch pot, I think. That's quite tall. A bit of a wonky stem, which I think we can see. Bear with. Yeah, the stem's a little bit wonky, but again, I'm not too bothered about that. I think that gives the standards character. But this giant Bolero here, it's gone mad. It's thrown root breaks, which I can use as cuttings. I'll probably pull that out to just keep a bush plant, but this is just mad. It's about 1 metre tall. It's just crazy plant. Now, my butterfly, Brian West, of course, which everyone knows about, we followed on the show on the channel. A couple of yellowing leaves. It was really difficult to get the watering right during that cool spell of weather. But now everything's really started growing. Get rid of that. I'm needing to up the watering. I'll probably be a little bit overcautious with the watering, to be quite honest. Multi-stem, Deanna Westwood, quite like that one. A couple of the younger bicolour standards, which I've already shown you. This is a relatively young Marie Rudling. That's a couple of years old again. The other thing to remember, particularly with Regals, is they throw lots and lots of root breaks, which you can use as long as they're not deformed, which these clearly aren't, you can use those as cutting material. If they're all screwed up, you know that it's got leaf gall, so they're utterly useless. You can't use those. Here's another one. This is Jan Legrange, I can never really pronounce that one either, but that's grown up quite nicely. That needs tying up, and we've got a side shoot there that I need to remove. But here's our berry zest, huge head, just coming for flower. I'm hopeful of getting that to the show this year. Needs a little bit of a clean up inside, a couple of yellow leaves. But that's doing okay. I mean, it's growing away nicely. Quite a thickish stem. It's not huge, no more than a centimetre. But the only thing to consider with a big heavy head, you've got to have a sizable clay pot. Otherwise, you'll just never be able to move it anywhere. Got other ones here. I think that's one of my own seedlings from three or 4 years ago. It's unnamed actually, but that's doing okay. Shorter one. So that's only the main stem is probably only realistically about 40 centimetres. The head is similar size. This one is bushfire. That's gone mad. Again, pretty decent stem, but the stem's a bit buckled. But as I said, I don't care about that at all. Rushmore Bondi Blue is another one, zonal stellar-side. That's in a good pot. That went down, it's about 1 metre tall. It's doing okay. We've got other young ones here. Now this is William Languth, and this has grown very, very quickly. Now, if you've got very, very strong growing varieties, you really almost need to be taking out the tips every second break. So, you know, you get the break from the previous cut, it comes up, and then you need to do it at the second or third node up from the original cut. So I've stopped it there. It's grown on 1, 2, and we got 3 leaves there, and then I need to stop it again just to keep it compact. Otherwise you're never going to get a head on it because it's a bit longer jointed, and that's the thing to consider with slightly more longer jointed varieties. You need to keep them well cut back in the stages of early development. That's something that you really do need to consider. So other Regals, I've got this Regal here of Doris Shaw. That's grown up quite nicely. I've got another giant one here of Delhi. I'm hopeful of getting that to the show this year. That's got a really long stem, about 1 metre tall. And I'm really hoping that that's going to get to the show. I did stop it. I wonder whether I might have stopped it a tad late. It's only just beginning to throw bud. But that would be one that I would normally have stopped very early in the season. But yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. Statburn, absolutely love this. This has developed very well over the last few years. Again, patience required, because that, believe it or not, I think is a 5-year-old plant. Yeah, that is actually over 5 years old. That was a spring 19 cutting, that was. So that has taken a long time to develop. I've got another one behind there. That's Harvest Moon. Look at the root cuttings on that coming through. There's hundreds of them. Gwendoline, that's a really dark flowering Regal. Again, that's grown up quite nicely as a standard. Another young Charity behind it. But they're all doing really well. Peppermint Star, we've seen this on a number of occasions. Again, marginally buckled stem, but I'm not overly concerned. And a multi-stem of our Mr. Wren, just about to come into flower. And I think that's sort of more or less just about it. I've got 1 or 2 others, but we'd be really here all day if I included them all. So I think I've touched base there on a number of things to consider when growing standards. As I said, I've not done a standards only video for quite a while, so I thought it was good to catch up, and I hope you enjoyed that one. I've got a lot of other things to do. I'm probably actually this afternoon going to shoot a separate video on my other channel, so we'll have a look at that. I've got lots of bloom coming out. Even my seedlings have actually started flowering, so I've got a lot to catch up on. So I'll hopefully see you again very, very soon. Bye bye for now.